Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Welcome to Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Mary Murray Shelton, the community spiritual leader here. I'm happy to welcome those of you that are here and those of you that are with us online this morning. Thank you for being here. It's great to have you with us. Now, we are a congregation that believes in community and welcoming. So the way that we begin is by welcoming each other. So I'm going to invite you to stand up, walk around, say hi to everybody, introduce yourself to anybody you don't know, welcome people back, and we'll be right back in just a couple minutes. If you are online with us, maybe pour yourself another cup of coffee or tea, give yourself a hug, and know that we'll be right back in just a few moments for the opening song. Oh, goodness. All right. So don't stand yet. I'm going to say a little bit about our special musician this morning. We have Jennifer Berezin back with us today. Yay. And Jennifer is a singer, songwriter, producer, and activist. So her music that she's been writing and performing all these years has been shaped by the environmental movement, the women's movement, justice movements, and Buddhist practice. So this is our opportunity to enter into music with Jennifer as a transformative experience. So let's welcome Jennifer Berezin. Please stand and join us for the opening song.
I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us, so lift me up to the light of change. There is hurting in my family, there is sorrow in my town, there is panic in the nation, there is wailing the whole world round. But I am open and I am willing, to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. May the children see more clearly. May the elders be more wise. May the winds of change push caress us, even though they burn our eyes. But I am open and I am willing, to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. Lift me Give me a sunset to hold my wonder. Give me an ocean to hold my tears. And I am open, yes, I am willing to be hopeless, which seems so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. So lift me up to the light of change.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. All right. So now I'm going to invite you to go ahead and silence your cell phones so they won't be buzzing and interrupting you and us. And we're going to begin to turn within. So we've sung together, we've greeted one another, so we've done all the exterior connecting. Now we're going to do the interior connecting. So I'm inviting our morning prayer practitioner, Leslie Giannetti, up to lead us to do the opening prayer.
I bring my full attention to the one infinite, magnificent, all-in-all life, that this one is always operating for the highest possible good as it moves upon itself and as it creates out of itself. This one is always spreading itself across the past, the present, and the future in this one moment of eternality. This limitless life force is good, and it belongs to each one, and each one belongs to it. Each one is a unique vessel for the wholeness of the infinite life. It speaks to each one in the stillness. It is the magnificent I am presence. It is the power of the intuition and inspiration in each one, which always seeks greater self-expression, always seeks new ways of revealing itself and reflecting itself through each one. So I call forth a greater expression of the infinite life in and through today's service, in and through every word spoken, in and through every note of music, in and through every thought. As each one is a vehicle for receptivity, each one is also a vessel for an outflow of this life, this divine circulation always moving through everything, everywhere. It recognizes itself deeply in the truth of being. And as each one listens to today's service, each one is an individualization of the truth, recognizing itself in its wholeness and its fullness for a greater expression of oneness, one life, unified. So I give thanksgiving in advance for what will be realized and revealed in today's service through Reverend Mary, through the receptivity of each heart. And I release my word to the law of mind, which embraces my word into itself, bringing it into form for the greater good. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Leslie.
One breath, one breath, one breath at a time. One breath at a time. Where are you now? I've come to find you gently remind you, a ringing bell, a flickering light, growing brighter in the night. One breath at a time. One breath, one breath, one breath at a time. One breath at a time. When you are lost on the rocky sea, battered by the rising tide, I'll be the light to guide you home safely to the other side. One breath at a time. One breath, one breath, one breath at a time. One breath at a time. In the silent dawn, I will speak your name. When this world is gone, tell me what will remain. You're the sky that holds the moon that wanes, the tumbling stars, the falling rain. One breath at a time. One breath, one breath, one breath at a time. One breath at a time.
So we have been joining all of Centers for Spiritual Living with this theme of rising higher and growing deeper this year. And this month, the month of July, my theme has been meeting the inner deep. There's a recognition that there is a deeper something. There's a deeper something in all of us. And I don't know that we ever fully know it, but we begin to discover more of it as we go. You know, usually before the service, I sit backstage for about 5 minutes and just get centered and ready. And it occurred to me for some reason, as I was sitting back there, when I think of us as that we were created by the infinite out of itself, I always say it that way, like we were created, like it, you know, we're here and we're done. But it occurred to me as I was sitting back there that we're still in the process of being created. It wasn't like one and done. We're still in the process of being created. So today, I'm speaking about, and this will make you think of the Jamie Lewis song, Something is Calling Us Deeper. His song is Something's Calling Me Deeper Than I've Ever Been Before. So if something is calling us deeper, possibly the way that we feel the calling to go deeper is when we're uncomfortable about something. When we've caught ourselves making a mistake, or we're wondering about something that we have believed that we're beginning to think maybe might not be quite accurate, or we feel an impulsion to be somewhere or do something. I know that there have been a couple times in my life that I felt I really was called to go to a particular place that I'd never been before. One was Santa Fe, the other was Machu Picchu. And I've been to both of those places and had some kind of a connection, with those places. So we sometimes feel that we're being called into an unknown area somehow, into something that we don't really know how to explain or figure out. And it reminded me of this little story. A woman said to her friend, I went to visit my granddaughter last night, and while I was there, I asked her if I could borrow a newspaper. She told me, this is the 21st century, Grandma. We don't waste money on newspapers. Here, use my iPad instead. So I borrowed it. And you know what? She shook her head at her friend and she said, well, you know what? I'll tell you what, that fly never knew what hit him. Think about it for a second. I sometimes think about that my older grandson even has probably never seen a wired phone, let alone used one. And it occurs to me that, on both ends of our lives, there are things that we're just not aware of for whatever reason. It hasn't come into our experience. And there is something that happens. We feel an inner urge to something. We feel called to write a book or go visit somebody or make a phone call. And we don't know why. We can't explain it, but we just feel pulled toward that. You know what I'm talking about? You know what that feels like? So our founder, Ernest Holmes, wrote, there is an inner urge in our own minds to grow, to expand, to break down the barriers of previous limitations and to ever widen our experience. This is, I guess, what I meant when I said we're not finished being created yet. He goes on to say, this persistent urge is a divine influence and an irresistible force that constitutes the greatest impulse in human experience, mostly misinterpreted and misunderstood, and often pursuing devious pathways. It is still the urge back of all accomplishment, the promise of all fulfillment. So we feel this inner urge, and the question becomes, where is this coming from? Where is this urge arising? Because sometimes we're not sure if what we feel pulled to do is necessarily a good thing or necessarily a good thing for us. And sometimes you can't tell until you enter into it. Was that a good idea? Maybe not. Maybe it was. We don't know yet. Ernest Holmes is saying that the urge, that feeling, is a divine impulsion. How we interpret it and what we plant it on, that comes through us, through our interpretation of our lives. So why? Why do we feel this urge? It would be one thing to be born into time and space and to experience the world and just experience it. That would be something that would grow us anyway, just being here, just learning to appreciate it, just learning to appreciate our senses and our experiences. But there seems to be more, and I think it's because we aren't finished yet. When I talk about us being a vehicle for experiencing all of creation and expressing, and that doing that is part of what the divine wants, is for us to experience, to enjoy creation, and to express, to do more, to create more ourselves. But also, I think that this urge is for us. It's not just so that we will bring forth more in accordance with what the divine wants. I think it's also in service to us to wake us up a little bit more, to reveal more of ourselves to us, and to let the infinite reveal more of itself to us. So we come in with whatever combination of talents and gifts and awarenesses we have, and a desire to give those, to experience and express them. And as we do that, we discover more about ourselves. We realize what we can do and more of what we can do. And sometimes we feel driven to push even further past the limits of what we think we could do. This is where we see Olympic athletes and mind readers, and I don't know what all else, where people take a particular ability and run with it, literally sometimes, to create something more. So we get this opportunity, this urge that invites us into more self-revelation and more divine revelation. And no matter how we take that urge forward, it can still accomplish that for us. So even if we apply the urge in an area that is somewhat, that we would think of as negative maybe, or some of us seem to be in a self-destructive mode, even that urge can lead us into something else. I think most of the time the urge that we're feeling is not in and of itself the thing we're actually being drawn to, but it is what we can understand. So we're drawn in that direction so that we get there, and then the universe can show us more and take us forward the next little bit. So then the question becomes, who is called? Is it only people who have risen to such a level in consciousness that they're ready to really come awake and realize who they truly are and what all of this truly is? I don't think it's limited, actually. I started off thinking, well, there are these handfuls of people who are really called. We talk about ministry being a calling, a vocation. But there are so many things in the world we can be called to that aren't professions or careers, but we can receive a calling for those as well. And so Margaret Wheatley said, determination, energy, and courage appear spontaneously when we care deeply about something. We take risks that are unimaginable in any other context. That urge pulls us past our comfort zone, out into that area beyond what we know, into something entirely new, where we have to learn more or express more or discover more in order to be able to do that thing or to move forward in that way. So Holmes says, in a practical application of the science of mind, there is an irresistible and divine urge within us to be happy, to be whole, and to express the fullness of life. The latent divinity within us stirs our imagination, and because of its insistent demand, impels and compels our growth. It is back of every invention. It proclaims itself through every creative endeavor. It has produced sages, saints, and saviors, and will, when permitted, create a new world in which war, poverty, sickness, and famine will have disappeared. I would love to see that, but the thing about the infinite is it's never in a hurry. It's never in a hurry. It's not bound by time or space, so it doesn't rush. So if it takes us millennia to get to that point in our evolution as beings, it's okay as far as the infinite is concerned. So what? Drop in the bucket, no problem. But for us, we feel not only an urgency to go in that direction, but to complete it, to see it happen, to be able to say, ta-da, we got here. But the process of getting here is actually the point, not the end result, but the way in which we grow and discover and continue to be created. That's the point. So when we follow what it is that feels like that urgency to go forward, these are some of the possibilities of signs of a calling. Now, remember, everybody has callings, but these particular signs of a calling are not all what we think of as positive. So artistic creativity, I've got a friend whose granddaughter in Australia is a brilliant artist. There is no medium she has tried to play with where she hasn't created what seems to me to be amazing. And this has been true for her. She's in university now, but all the way through school, all the way through high school, right up into university. She won a costume design contest that allowed her costume, which she actually built, was a costume for Cleopatra. And it was amazing. And it was actually built and then taken on tour. I mean, this girl is incredible. And she seems to be kind of compelled to create more and go further and create more. It's never done. It keeps flowing through her. It's not like she hasn't got it right, so she has to keep trying. It's like there's more, there's more, there's more. So artistic creativity can be that. And that's true whether you're creating something that is recognized as an art, or whether you're, just making a vase of flowers, or you're finding a new way to make brownies, or whatever it might be. That creativity is still happening, that artistic creativity. But also addictions, I think. This is the gospel according to Mary. You're not required to believe this when I say it. But I think that addictions, too, are a response to a need and an urge that goes seeking something. And in that seeking, in that urge, it gets into some of these other things sometimes. And the process of going through an addiction, I would imagine, is one that takes you through all kinds of emotional ups and downs, and sometimes into recovery, where you might discover that the path that went through this addiction needed to get here so that you could go from there. So it wasn't necessarily that you had to be addicted, but that was the path that wound up being maybe the shortest or longest, whatever path through, to the next stop on your way forward. Also, there are those of us who are spiritual seekers. We're interested in philosophical spiritual ideas. We're interested in spiritual teachings. We're interested in gurus and people who taught and avatars, and we want to know what they said and what they thought and see what we think of that. And that kind of spiritual seeking, that kind of spiritual hunger is, I think, aiming toward that experience of being one with all that is, of waking up. But apparently we can't get there until we're fully ripe in one way or another. And once again, the universe isn't rushing us. So we're wandering, meandering along our path of life, and we're seeking. And the universe brings us this piece of information or that piece of fascination, and we look into the next thing. Also, I think everybody that's involved in scientific exploration or inventing things or trying to answer certain questions, looking into try and understand why quantum physics and mechanical physics that deals with big things, why those two things don't talk to each other the same way. What's the link between, they can't both be true, but they are true, so how do we get them to talk to each other? Those scientific explorations become an urgency that takes people into situations where they just can't give up. It's the story of Thomas Edison, who kept on trying to create a light bulb that would work, like thousands of times. Who does that? Isn't there a certain point where you go, enough already? But no, he had to keep going. Okay, now I know this way doesn't work. Now let me try this way. On and on and on. Trevor Bayliss, who is an inventor, a British inventor, said, I was on automatic pilot. Ideas for gadgets kept coming, fed by a force of energy flowing through me and around me. I wasn't really conscious of pausing to eat or sleep. I was caught up in a flurry of activity. I must have been experiencing the same sort of rapture of creation I imagine composers or poets get carried away by when they lose themselves in their work. I forgot about everything else to concentrate on what I was doing. I'd work 18-hour stretches and fall asleep in my clothes. Then I'd wake up in the middle of the night, brew a pot of tea, and start work again. I was tired, but work had become pure enjoyment. The process of what he was engaged in was as exciting as what he was going toward, and it was unstoppable. We see poets who are like this, just as he said, or composers. I think it was Paganini who said once, somebody was telling him how marvelous his work was. He said, "It doesn't come from me, it comes from him, and I'm just the vehicle for it." And yet, you know, if you ever saw Amadeus, where he's actually ill, but he's frantically writing the music down. And he said once something about taking down the music that no one else could hear yet, that he was taking dictation of the music he was hearing in his head, that urge that was carrying him forward. Einstein said, "The state of mind which enables a man to do work of this kind is akin to that of the religious worshiper or lover. The daily effort comes from no deliberate intention or program, but straight from the heart." So this ineffable urge that we feel at various times, it wants to create us a little more, to carry us a little further, to point in a particular direction. And it doesn't matter how important you think it is, what you're doing. You know, if you're making a brand new recipe for a cake, you might not think that that was world-shaking. And yet, something about being in that creative mode and process is growing you. So there's tremendous value in the small things and in the large things. And then there are people who are into extreme sports, stuff that you think, why in the world would anybody do that? Why would anybody on a skateboard want to do a half pipe? What kind of insanity possesses a person to do that? Or, you know, those downhill skiers that go off the jumps or go down the slaloms, anything that happens really fast, like a luge. You may remember the movie about the Jamaican bobsled guys. You know, it doesn't snow in Jamaica. So, you know, they're trying to learn how to be bobsled riders. And in the movie, they do this very well, because in the Olympics, when it happened, I kind of remember this. You see them, usually when you see professionals do that, they're completely aligned. You know, their bodies are a solid piece. These guys, their heads are bouncing all over the place as they go down this thing, and you just think, they're going to kill themselves. What possesses people to want to do that, to want to go further, to press on harder, to go beyond what human beings have done before? Why would anybody choose voluntarily to jump out of an airplane? What possesses someone to think that's a good idea? So we're in this process of being called. It's curiosity, and inflamed curiosity in a way. It's on fire, and it becomes compelling to us to follow that. Now that spark, that, you know, Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss, but maybe it doesn't always feel like bliss. Maybe it feels like that excitement or urgency or desire to find out or to go further. Another German, Karl Hauptmann, who is a German novelist, said, "You must love your work as you love a mistress, whom you want to glorify. Once you are possessed by the creative urge, there is no room for any other drive or thought." So I'm quoting people who are at the furthest reaches of this desire to go deeper. To go deeper into this curiosity, which we think is taking us in a particular direction to a particular outcome. And yet, oftentimes when we get there, we discover the urge doesn't die. There's something more. There's another opportunity. There's another step. There's something further, you know? Hillary, I know you make jewelry and you're nodding. It's like you're never finished. There's always a new idea, a new pattern, a new challenge, something you want to try. And so we are, all of us, in this game that we entered into, where we are constantly being drawn in to the inner deep mystery, gradually, deeper and deeper, into something mystical. I think it's why some of us find fantasy and science fiction so exciting, because it speaks of a world that we don't see, but what if? What if this could occur? What if that's possible? This is why, you know, Harry Potter became so popular with people. And it wasn't just kids. I remember my book had come out around the time that Harry Potter was becoming more and more popular. And I was sitting in an airport on my way to back east to go to some bookstores and do some presentations and stuff. And there was a little kid, he must have been maybe 8 or 9, in the airport, sitting very quietly over in his chair waiting for his flight with a copy of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This is a book that's about this thick, 8 or 9 years old, and I'm thinking, boy, if this book could get that kid to sit and read something that long, I should probably take a look at these books. Well, that was it. You know, of course, I was completely hooked. So we're drawn into the inner deep. It's inward, the deep. I mean, it's all around us, but where we experience it is inside ourselves. And the inner deep we share in common with everybody. I mean, we have our access to it and our interpretation of it and our experience of it, but so do other people. We're all looking at that. Now, years ago, I saw a statement that most, like 75% of Americans who were polled said that they had had a spiritual experience. And then they asked, would you like to have it again? And the vast majority of them said no. I think because they found it terrifying, because it was so much more than they could comprehend or believe could be possible, and they had no explanation for it. So when we follow that urge, we very often will find ourselves in what to us is uncharted territory. I just want to say to you, it's safe. If you are being pulled in that direction, then the universe is pulling you for a reason. Now, that doesn't mean that I think it's a good idea to jump into addictions. That's not what I'm recommending here. That is a particular interpretation of the urge. And there's a difference between the interpretation and the intention of the urge itself, right? So we're moving into this mystery. Like, look at this up here. There are little fireflies or fairies or something floating around up there in this area where you're headed, but you don't know what's over there on the other side of the rise. Not really sure. So essentially the universe is making us an offer we can't refuse. It will crank it up to make it more compelling or more interesting if we don't respond, until it becomes an irresistible invitation to read this book or call that person or order this thing off the menu or whatever it is. Holmes said in The Science of Mind, nature will not let us stay in one place too long. She will let us stay just long enough to gather the experience necessary to the unfolding and advancement of the soul. This is a wise provision. For should we stay here too long, we would become too set, too rigid, too inflexible. Nature demands the change in order that we may advance. That's the thing about us still being in the process of being created. The urge is for us to discover ourselves more, for pure delight, for enjoyment, for wonder, for amazement, for fun. Rumi said, inside you, there's an artist you don't know about. And that's always true for us, no matter how long we're on this earth, that there is an artist in us that wants to show us more, wants us to walk in and discover more and go further. So we're drawn into this. Sarah Dessen said, it shouldn't be easy to be amazing. Then everything would be. It's the things you fight for and struggle with before earning that have the greatest worth. When something's difficult to come by, you'll do that much more to make sure it's even harder or impossible to lose. And so, in the process in our lives, you may have been called into a situation where you weren't sure if you could do what was necessary, but you agreed to it anyway. I was understudy for a play a long time ago. And my experience at the University of Washington was when we were doing plays, understudies very rarely were actually needed. So they hadn't rehearsed with me at all. But I have an auditory kind of memory, and I had heard everybody's lines so many times over all of our rehearsals and performances that I pretty well had the whole play in my head, except for 2 scenes where I was always down in the dressing room. And I could hear it over the loudspeaker, but I wasn't paying attention in the same way. Those 2 scenes. Well, on St. Patrick's Day evening, when I got home from celebrating, I had a voicemail, and that voicemail was from the director of the play, who told me that the lead character that I was understudying, which was a dual role, was sick. And she said that she didn't think she'd make it through the weekend if she tried to perform that night. And so could I do it? And I said yes, without hesitation. But when we went to try and run lines and stuff so that I could, make sure I knew where I was, every time we got to one of those 2 scenes, my mind was blank. Every time. And yet, I got through the performance somehow, even those 2 scenes, although it was wobbly. But this was a play where the set changed all the time, and it was abstract, and I had costume changes, and the rest of the cast, what they would do is they would grab me when the lights went down and move me to where I needed to be next and take my clothes off and put clothes on me and then get out of the way before the lights came up. And I would have to figure out from where I was on the stage and what I was wearing, what scene is this? So that was insane to do that. And I was shaking like a leaf the whole time. I remember standing, the set had multiple levels, and I was standing on the top level, and I had to lean out the window, supposedly, of this flat and talk to the water carrier. And I remember standing there with my back to that flat before my line came, saying to myself, I will not pass out. I will not pass out. And I didn't. So I got through the whole thing, and it went pretty well. But that was a crazy thing to do. And that can happen to any one of us, where we say yes in some fashion, and we go forward and we enter into something that part of us is terrified to do because it knows we don't know everything about it, and yet we feel we must do that. We must do that. And so whatever happens, happens, but we get that next little bit of learning. And I must say, I didn't know at the time, but that story has become a really good sermon point more than once. So it proved to be really useful for me in the future, even though that wasn't something I ever thought of. I want to share a story with you about somebody who went so much further to do what he felt needed to be done. The little country schoolhouse was heated by an old-fashioned pot-bellied coal stove. A 7-year-old boy named Glenn Cunningham and his older brother Floyd had the job of coming to school each day so they could use kerosene to start the fire and warm the room before the teacher and the other classmates arrived. One cold morning, someone mistakenly filled the kerosene container that they used with gasoline, and disaster struck. The class and teacher arrived to find the schoolhouse engulfed in flames. Terrified on realizing that the Cunningham boys were inside, they rushed in and managed to drag the unconscious boys out of the flaming building, more dead than alive. Floyd died, and Glenn had major burns over the lower half of his body and was taken to a nearby county hospital. From his bed, the dreadfully burned, semi-conscious little boy faintly heard the doctor talking to his mother. The doctor told his mother that her son would surely die, which was for the best, really, for the terrible fire had devastated the lower half of his body. But the brave boy didn't want to die. He made up his mind that he would survive, and somehow, to the amazement of the physician, Glenn did survive. Yet when the mortal danger was past, he again heard the doctor and his mother speaking quietly. The mother was told that since the fire had destroyed so much flesh in the lower part of his body, it would be almost better if he had died, since he was doomed to have no use at all of his lower limbs. But his mother refused to let the doctors amputate. Once more, Glenn made up his mind. He would not be disabled. He would walk. Ultimately, he was released from the hospital. Every day afterward, his mother and father would massage his legs, but there was no feeling, no control, nothing. Yet his determination that he would walk was as great as ever. When he wasn't in bed, Glenn was confined to a wheelchair. One sunny day, his mother wheeled him out into the yard to get some fresh air. This day, instead of sitting there, he threw himself from the chair. He pulled himself across the grass, dragging his legs behind him. Glenn worked his way to the white picket fence bordering their lot, and with great effort, he pulled himself up on the fence. And then, stake by stake, he began dragging himself along the fence, resolved that he would walk. He started to do this every day until he wore a smooth path all around the yard beside the fence. There was nothing he wanted more than to develop life in those legs. Ultimately, through his daily massages, Glenn's iron persistence, and his resolute determination, he did develop the ability first to stand up and then to walk haltingly with help, and then to walk by himself, and then, miraculously, to run. Glenn began to run to school. He ran for the sheer joy of running and being able to run. He ran everywhere that he could find. The people in town would often see him run by on his way to who knows where and smile. Later, in college, Glenn made the track team, where his tremendous determination paid off, eventually earning him the nickname the Kansas Flyer. Glenn Cunningham went on to become one of the greatest U.S. track stars of all time. The Kansas Flyer set world records in the mile run in 1934 and the 800-meter in 1936. He received the coveted Sullivan Award in 1933 as the country's top amateur athlete. He finished fourth in 1932 in the Los Angeles Olympics in the 1500-meter and won the silver medal in the 1936 Berlin Olympics. By 1938, when Cunningham ran his fastest mile in 4 minutes, 4.4 seconds, he had earned 12 of the 31 fastest mile run times on record. In 1978, Cunningham was named the outstanding track performer in the 100-year history of Madison Square Garden. He was inducted into the U.S. National Track and Hall of Fame in 1979. This guy shouldn't have been able to walk or stand, but there was an urgency. He was determined. He couldn't stop. He had to keep trying. He kept encouraging himself. Think of how long that must have taken. I'm sure it was more than a year. He must have been doing that to get to the point where he could stand by himself. So that's a big, big thing. But, you never know what might be a truly breakthrough thing for you or for somebody else just by following something small, telling somebody a story, saying a prayer for them, making a new kind of cake for their birthday. You never know. So those little sparks of urgency that call you, that's part of meeting that inner deep that we've been looking at this month. And I guarantee you have them. Maybe you've learned to quiet them or ignore them or talk yourself out of them. But next time you get a little spark to call somebody or write a letter or do a little something, try it. Go ahead, do it. See what happens. It couldn't hurt. Go ahead and see what happens when you really go to meet that inner deep mystery. Namaste. All right. So let's anchor this within now. As we turn within, we recognize that the infinite presence out of which everything is made is still creating, is still bringing forth universes, is still creating us. And we are that mystery in expression. We are an aspect of the divine slowed down enough to be visible right here, and the very essence that we are is that one. This one within us knows who we are, knows what we need, knows what is calling to us, and is there to guide and direct us forward into the next adventure, into the next experience, the next creation, the next discovery. We have within us already right now everything that we need to do that. We may not know it, but it's there. I know that within us now, as we step into this week in July, that inner knowing is compelling us forward toward our greater good, compelling us and moving us forward as we go with it into the next adventure, the next discovery, the next self-awareness, and that every opportunity for opening on this path is a gift. And we take those gifts with awe and wonder and curiosity and delight. Our very curiosity unwraps them and sets them on fire right in front of us, drawing us forward into greater awareness, into greater wholeness, into greater good. So we accept the invitation. We accept the goodness that is waiting. We accept the guidance that assists us to see clearly, to come in presence from the heart. We're deeply grateful for this reminder and for this unfoldment. So we let this prayer go into the law that does the creative work. We let it go into the heart of God, where it always has been the truth about us. And we simply let it be. And together we say, and so it is. Please stand and join me for the morning affirmation. As we say together, the time for us has come. We hear the call to live more fully as our highest convictions. We claim freedom for all and dive deeper into the truth. It is the difficult truths that are setting us free. And so it is. You may be seated. Would the ushers please come forward? This is our sacred giving time, and we are going to bless the offering, all of what's being given today and has been given for Golden Gate this past week. If you are online this morning and you'd like to make a donation to Golden Gate, you can text the dollar amount you want to give to the number on the screen, and then just follow the directions. We would be most grateful for that. And for all of us here, we recognize that not only are we giving gifts, but sometimes we are the gift. So I'm going to invite you to take your gift and hold it over your heart. And if you don't have a gift today, place your hands over your heart anyway, as we join together in our giving affirmation by saying together, "This gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to bless and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world living in love, one heart and one thought at a time. And so it is. Thank you. Go ahead.
She is a boat, she is a light, high on a hill in dark night. She is a wave, she is the deep, she is the dark, where angels sleep when all is still and peace abides. She carries me to the other side. She carries me, she carries me, she carries me to the other side. And though I walk through valleys deep and shadows chase me in my sleep, on rocky cliffs I stand alone. I have no name, I have no home. With broken wings I reach to fly. She carries me to the other side. Please join me if you want. She carries me, she carries me, she carries me to the other side. 1,000 arms, 1,000 eyes, 1,000 ears to hear my cries. She is the gate, she is the door. She leads me through and back once more. When day has dawned and death is nigh, she carries me to the other side. She carries me, she carries me, she carries me to the other side. She carries me, she carries me, she carries me to the other side.
Mm-hmm. So on behalf of Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, we do, all of us together, accept this offering, and we send it out into the world to give people the courage to follow that inner spark. And so it is. All right, now if you happen to be with us for the very first time this morning, I want to direct your attention to the table back behind this section. That's our welcome table. It has all kinds of flyers and handouts, little magnets and things. Feel free to take with you anything you like on that table. And make sure that you get a welcome packet. Galen has the welcome packets. She's waving one in the air back there. They have a blue card inside. Fill that out and give it to Galen, and she's going to give you a little gift, which is a little book, our thank you for being here today, and also our invitation to you to come back again. We look forward to getting to know you. Also, I want to thank everybody who went out of their way to make sure that we had a setup in here today, that we had this wonderful altar with blooming things happening all over the place. Thank you to Karen and Randy Frost for that lovely altar. And so, yes, we've acknowledged them, but let's acknowledge everybody that's on the team that set up today. Yes. And speaking of which, I want to invite Karen up now so that she can tell you a little bit about the workshop that is happening on July 27th, next Sunday, at our office.
Sorry. Careful.
It's just uneven there, so I always think I'm going to fall off.
We don't need you falling again. So we're good. Hi. So, yay. We are having a workshop. So instead of doing some longer classes, we are doing workshops here and there and to sprinkle things in to make things interesting and to be hearing more about what we want. And the thing that Leslie and I got called for is there is, as we were even singing in the first song, there is so much chaos. There is so much stuff going on in this world and in this country and in this nation and in our hearts, in our communities and in our families, that we want to be sure that we know how to anchor that, because that is what we are called to here to be, is to be the anchors and to find that peace, that calm, that one presence, even in chaos. So that's what we're going to be discussing, that one afternoon we're going to solve the world. Isn't that exciting?
Very good.
Very good.
Very good. Thank you, Karen. So you can sign up for the workshop back at the activity table. This is called Prayer in Anxious Times. And it really is about the practical application of the science of mind. This is where the rubber meets the road. How are we, as people who practice the science of mind, how are we called to release our opinions and move into center? That's not an easy thing to do. So you're going to have an opportunity to explore and experience and discuss that together from 1 to 3 next Sunday in our office. You can talk to Karen or Leslie this morning. Karen's at the prayer table, Leslie's over here, and you can sign up back there. This is on a love offering basis, and it will be live and in person at our office, no Zoom. In 2 weeks, we're having a town hall meeting right here after the service. So save a little time for us afterwards. We're not going to have a whole lunch and stuff. We're just going to have coffee and, cookies and whatnot. If you're bringing snacks, you might bring some extras. And it won't be a long meeting, but we want to talk to you a little bit about what's going on so you're all up to speed. So we invite you to be here for that town hall on August 3rd. And I will put a Zoom link into the newsletter and everything so that you know if you're going to be away or if you're online with us and you want to be part of that meeting, that you can just go to the Zoom link and be with us for that. Also on August 10th, we're going to have our summer picnic right out here on the patio. So, and the delight of having it right here is that even those that are a little less steady on their feet will be fine out here. We don't have to worry about somebody getting snagged on a little hump of grass or something. And so we're going to be out there on August 10th. The sign-ups for setup and cleanup and various dishes that you would be willing to bring, the sign-ups are on the activity table back here. Please sign up so that I don't panic about making sure there's enough food. Okay. Also, I want to remind you that Reverend Lloyd Strom's memorial, this is not our Lloyd, for those of you that might get confused about that. Our founder is Lloyd Tupper. This is Lloyd Strom, who was a member here some time ago. He has made his transition in May, I believe, May. And his memorial is coming up, and it's going to be at the Valley Memorial Cemetery in Novato on August 4th, that's a Monday, at 10 a.m. So we want you to be aware of that in case you'd like to attend. Also, our next service at the food bank is coming up on Tuesday, August 12th from 12 to 2. And please talk to Ellen Nicosia, who is right over here. Can you give a wave, Ellen? If you would like to be part of that team, you can also contact her by texting or emailing her to her info is up on the screen. And our next coffee and faith sharing opportunity with Leslie Giannetti is going to be coming up on Wednesday, August 13th at 10 a.m. at Cafe Aroma on 4th Street in San Rafael. So that's all the goodies that are coming up at the moment. There'll be more, of course. But right now, I want to remind you that prayer is always a good first response to anything that's going on. And if you feel yourself getting tangled up and worried and angry and upset about anything, That's a good clue that the universe is urging you to go to the prayer table after the service and get a prayer. I mean, duh, right? So we have Dana and Karen available this morning to pray with you. Just go to the prayer table. If they're busy backstage praying, they'll be right back to come and get you in just a moment, okay? You can also put a prayer request into the box. Practitioners, would you surround the room? We're going to pray everybody out together right now. And as we do this, just take it in, all right? So, as we join together, we're going to be praying all at the same time. And so just let the sound be a blessing to you, even though you won't be able to hear us individually. Right now. Knowing what is true of me is also true of them, right there. I give great thanks for this, and I set this free into the law now. And so it is. And so it is. Please stand and join us for the closing blessing and song as we say together, I now walk, so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God, and whoever places a hand in mine is lifted, and whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness, for spirit and all people and I are one eternally, and so it is. Here we go.
Bring light, and people will find the way. Bring light, and people will find the way. Bring light, and people will find the way. People will find the way, I do believe. Bring joy, and people will find the way. Bring joy, and people will find the way. Bring joy, people will find the way. People will find the way, I do believe. Teach peace, and people will find the way. Teach peace, and people will find the way. Teach peace, people will find the way. People will find the way, I do believe. Bring love, people will find the way. Come on and bring some love, and people will find the way. Bring love, people will find the way. People will find the way, I do believe, I do believe. Stand together, people will find